Welcome back to the New Jersey Morning Show. I'm Cara DeFalco.
And I'm Mike Favetta. We're so glad you could join us today. We have Laura Jones with us, and we are talking to Republican candidates for governor this morning, Cara.
Yes, absolutely. So we just heard from Jack Ciattarelli, and now let's welcome Republican candidate who is currently serving in the state Senate, Senator Jon Bramnick. Welcome to the Morning Show.
Good to be with you, Laura.
Well, Senator, it is so good to see you. You were the first Republican candidate to declare that you were going to run. There had always been talk that Jack Ciattarelli, who actually served in the Assembly, was going to run for a third time, and also talk that Bill Spadea is going to run, although he has not announced. So I just want to ask you why you decided that you were going to get in and run.
Well, we have one party rule in Trenton. And the reason we have one party rule is because the Republicans aren't winning. And the reason they're not winning is because our brand is in bad shape. So I run in a district that has 7,000 more Democrats. Actually, about 75% of the district is unaffiliated and Democrats. And I win. And here's why. We should never be the party of Donald Trump. We, as a Republican Party, should be the party of traditional Republican values, lower taxes, law and order, and smaller government. But what's happened is the Republican brand now is Donald Trump. And in New Jersey, there's no doubt it doesn't work. And I'm not a supporter of Donald Trump because I watched what he did on January 6th. I watched what he did when he denied that the election results. So my opponents, they want to pledge their allegiance to Donald Trump. And in a general election, to me, that's the wrong way to go. We are a party of Ronald Reagan, of the two Bush presidents. We're not the party of one man. We're not a cult. And consequently, I've been able to win. These other candidates talk about winning, but they lose. And I'm convinced I can win the general election without any doubt whatsoever. Why? Because people want change, but they don't want the Trump change. They want the traditional Republican change.
So, Senator, so you're talking about the traditional Republican change. Then what do you see as the biggest issues that the next governor of New Jersey needs to tackle in order to be successful here and keep their promises to the people?
Well, first we have to win. Because regardless of my positions, okay, if you lose, the Democrats go farther to the left. But I sat as Republican leader for 10 years, and I sat with Chris Christie and many governors. And when you have some power, you can negotiate. For example, the Democrats want certain things. They don't want lower taxes, I can tell you that, because they doubled the budget since Phil Murphy's been there. But I can sit across as a governor and say, okay, what do you need? Because the Democrats are still going to be control of the Senate, at least when I'm the governor. You sit there and you go, look, I want a reduction in the state income tax, or I want to change property taxes this way. What do you need? And then that's how things get done. They criticize me because I meet with Governor Murphy or I meet with Democrats. Well, I think some of these people forgot who is in charge, right? And we keep losing because we come across like we know everything. Well, we might. Unfortunately, though, you might know everything, all my opponents, but you keep losing. Keep losing, no change. With me, I've proved I can win. Simple as that.
Yeah, and Senator, this is what Jack Ciattarelli called you out on, more or less, not by name, but in his announcement that he's running for governor, that it's not helpful when you have people like you who are calling Trump supporters crazies, and he was critical of a candidate that would be friends and have a hot dog hamburger with Democrats. Then you fired back, though.
Well, let me make it clear. If we don't support the courts, there were 60 decisions of federal courts that said Joe Biden won the election. And then this president, Trump, goes out and stirs up the crowd and says, I'm not following the courts. Well, let me tell you how dangerous that is. If you don't follow the courts, then we have chaos in our country. So either you support the courts and the judicial system or you don't. This is not an option. And I have to tell you, I'm strongly in favor of supporting our institutions and our courts. And let me be honest with you, I'm going to be clear about that. And if you, even the vice president of the United States, Pence, would not endorse Donald Trump. I think that tells you something. He was in that White House for a long time, right next to the man.
Yeah, Senator, you mentioned a good point, how so many Republicans are distancing themselves from that instance. But how do you win over independents and get your message across to the Democrats?
Independents are dying for a change. I can tell you, moderate Democrats would like a Republican governor because they see their party swaying way to the left. I can tell you, I've had so many moderate Democrats come up and say to me, hey, John, something, to be honest with you, I'd like to see two parties down there because they're caught in that situation. I've been winning independents for years. What independents want is they want somebody from the Republican Party who sounds as if he will stand up for the Constitution and call out Republicans who don't. And I'm going to do that. And I understand the risk in a primary, but our country and our democracy is more important than one primary in New Jersey.
Senator, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you being on the morning show with us.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Laura, we have so many Democratic candidates on the show, and we've invited more. So our team and you are working to set those up, and we'll bring them to you in a later show.
Oh yeah, yep. We always have that open invitation to all those running. And again, in New Jersey, it always seems it's a perennial, right? We're still in the race for U.S. Senate, but again, talking about 2025, that's the nature of New Jersey politics, and also the nature of these candidates have to get out there early.
They really do. They really do, Laura. And so we've just heard from the two Republican primary nominees for Governor, Jack Ciattarelli and Senator Jon Bramnick. Joining us now to discuss the race on both sides is Joey Fox, a reporter for the New Jersey Globe. Hey, good morning, Joey.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. So Joey, I'm not sure how much of that you were able to hear, but what was your takeaway from the candidates this morning and things that they've said previously?
I mean, I think that you saw the fault lines already developing in this race, even though you didn't see the two candidates directly go head to head at each other. They're clearly talking about this race in a way that acknowledges the other's existence. You've got Jon Bramnick, who is very clearly staking out this, I am the true sort of avatar of the old Republican Party. I don't support Trump. I support the type of moderate Republicans who used to win in New Jersey, like Chris Christie, like Christine Todd Whitman. You've got Jack Ciattarelli, who is he's trying to thread the needle and become a candidate for all sides, where, he was never a super ardent Trump supporter, but he's also not someone who makes a big brand out of opposing Trump, and he's actually endorsed Trump for president this year. And then you've got the specter of a potential third candidate. You guys mentioned Bill Spadea. Former State Senator Ed Durr has also, not ruled out a potential run. There are other candidates who might be looking to occupy the fully sort of conservative pro-Trump lane. And ultimately, this will eventually go to a general election with one of them being the Republican nominee. But the slog over the next year and 2 months is to convince Republican primary voters that their vision for the Republican Party, which you can already see just how different those visions are, is the one that will A, best represent those voters, and B, give them the best shot of winning in November.
Yeah, and Joey, listen, these candidates are already taking shots at each other, for lack of a better word. Jack Ciattarelli in his announcement, you had Jon Bramnick firing back. And even on the radio this morning, Bill Spadea was talking about Jack Ciattarelli. In order to win and for them to have a really good chance at winning in November, you've got to win that Republican primary. How bloody, how bad, how nasty do you think that this is going to get? Because you have, Jon Bramnick, who's trying to be more moderate, Bill Spadea, a little bit more conservative, and Jack Ciattarelli, the candidate that has won for a third time.
I think this is definitely going to be a race that not all the candidates are going to like each other. This is not a race where you have a ton of congeniality necessarily right out the bat. And I think it sort of gets back to the point that I was making before, where there are the main declared or prospective candidates have really laid out some pretty distinct lanes. And as you fight over those lanes for the next year, that is inevitably going to get to be to start to be a kind of nasty race. I think a big question is how much money ends up getting thrown into the race. Are they spending money on TV ads, calling the others a rhino or a pro-Trump crazy or whatever, what have you? But I think, you can see from just the way that their campaigns have already started that these are people who have significant disagreements. This is not just a personality contest. This is a policy contest. This is a contest that has national reverberations with the presidential race. And the candidates are going to keep emphasizing that, and it's going to keep on being, I think, a bit ugly.
Yeah, Joey, I don't think anyone ever thinks of the gubernatorial candidate race to everyone holds hands and sings Kumbaya. It's not that tight, but there are some very, very distinct differences, and that could come out, especially in the public view. So when it comes to issues, what do you think will be the biggest factor that will impact the Republicans running for governor?
I mean, that's a good question that I don't think we have a super clear answer to yet, in part because a lot of the sort of nuts and bolts issues that I think all these candidates are going to want to focus on, they probably agree for the most part. You know, you saw both Senator Bramnick and Jack Ciattarelli mention property taxes as sort of their number one issue. That is a classic number one issue for pretty much every Republican running in New Jersey, and some Democrats. And you know, you might see some differences. They might roll out separate policy plans that would tackle the issue in different ways. But I think on a lot of those issues where, you know, it's directly in response to what Democrats in Trenton have been doing, what Phil Murphy has been doing, you might not see a ton of daylight between the candidates because they can all easily declare their opposition. I don't like the way the Democrats have done property taxes. I don't like the way the Democrats have rhetoric around the police. I don't like this. I don't like that. So I think that we'll have to wait and see whether the candidates really try to differentiate among their stances or whether they're all content with saying, you know, the state of New Jersey is not in a good place right now, and here are the specific reasons why.
Joey, we thank you so much for your insight and your time this morning. We really appreciate it. And guys, you can check out Joey's reporting on njglobe.com. Thanks again. And Laura Jones, of course, our own Laura Jones on New Jersey's NJ Politics. She'll keep everybody up to date on everything that is going on in New Jersey politics. And whew, it's already getting spicy out there.
Yes, it is.
So, Mike, the other story, the big story this week that everyone has been talking about and is still talking about, the 4.8 magnitude earthquake that shook New Jersey earlier this week. We have had a bunch of aftershocks. In fact, we just had a 2.6 magnitude aftershock yesterday, the other day, and there are a lot of people still rattled by all of this.
So get this, there have been more than 47 aftershocks in the vicinity. Yeah. Now, some of them are too small for them to be felt or even heard. They just are picked up by those seismometers in the area. But still, to have that many aftershocks is something pretty impressive. There's also been some reporting, and this is something kind of new to me since we don't get these large earthquakes here very often. It's a once in a every other lifetime kind of event to have this magnitude. But there's something known as if there's a larger earthquake that were to happen, that would become the main shock. And then all of the earthquakes that we've had previously from that point, the 47, for instance, would become 4 shocks. And then you have aftershocks beyond that. So a little geology lesson to kind of give you a refresher. So much going on.
Oh my goodness. And it's, you know, we don't think, because it doesn't happen often here, we don't think of New Jersey as being on a fault line, but there is a small fault that runs through the state.
There are several smaller faults, but, you know, to see them go back in history to the 1700s, at least recorded history, of the estimation of how strong they were, because, you know, the area settled back in the 15th, 16th century. Yeah, right. We have some historically written records, nothing that can be measured on a standard scale, but still quite interesting. So we have to find out, where were you on Friday at around 10:30 in the morning, Kara?
You know what? I was driving, actually. So I didn't feel anything at all.
Okay, I happened to be home. I was washing my face and kind of disoriented, you know, with the soap in my eyes. And yes. I hear my wife screaming from the other room, shaking, shaking. I'm like, oh, it's the landscapers. It's been raining for 7 days, so they're probably here on a Friday. And no, in fact, yeah, but the dog slept right through it. Go figure.
There you go. There you go.
Mm-hmm. So really, really incredible stuff. So we will have more on our weather segment about the variation and where these locations were of all of these aftershocks coming up a little later on in the show. But Kara, up next, it's why we can answer this question, why it's going to cost you more to ride New Jersey Transit.
Yeah, plus why we can't get a break in our commuting costs and how it's getting more expensive to travel into New York City.